Hi guys, just wanted to do a quick update video on social anxiety because I've been trying to follow my progress online in case I find anything that helps people. And I wanted to talk about something that happened to me about 2 weeks ago that I thought might be good to talk about because it made me realise that I needed to create some kind of a some kind of a strategy for dealing with it. And that thing is anticipation anxiety, because it's not something that I have talked about all that much when talking about social anxiety, because we tend to think of it as a problem that we need to deal with when we're being sociable. But as many of you know that have social anxiety, it's a lot more nuanced than that, and anticipation anxiety can be a big factor when it comes to dealing with social anxiety triggers. So I just wanted to talk about something that caused me to have a panic attack about 2 weeks ago. So let me think. I'm in a new relationship with somebody that I've been with for about 5 weeks now, but about 2 weeks ago we were lying in bed talking via Messenger whilst he was at home, and it was approaching my birthday the following weekend, and I was quite in my comfort zone at that point. It was late at night and I was relaxed, and out of the blue he suggested that perhaps on my birthday I could go to his house and have dinner and meet his mum. Now, to a person without social anxiety, that doesn't seem something that would be social anxiety inducing, because obviously I'm not actually interacting at that point. But bearing in mind anticipation anxiety is a big factor with the disorder, I wanted to talk about how not to go about dealing with it, which is the way that I dealt with it. That in hindsight was just poor decision making. So he suggested these things, and I was presented I was presented with 3 triggers that hit me at once. The first one being if I go to his house, that involves me getting a train, and I haven't done trains in a long time because it gives me anxiety. Secondly, it meant meeting his mum, and that made me worry that I would do something stupid or my social anxiety would kick in and I'd look like a weird person. And thirdly, it meant that I had to sleep overnight, which I hadn't done, sleeping away from home in about 13 years, and there would be no exit strategy for me like there would be at home. So I was presented with the 3 problems, and what I should have done in hindsight was commit to doing it because I genuinely wanted to, and processed how I would go about doing it and my social anxiety in my own time privately, but I didn't do that. So because I started overthinking, I was overthinking and processing how I was going to go about dealing with it while still having the conversation via Messenger, and my adrenaline that was in my system at the time through being triggered had consequences, things like speaking gibberish because I was overthinking, and having a panic attack, and it not translating well the other end. So what I wanted to say was I learned a good lesson through this, and the lesson that I learned is if you are presented with an unexpected event and you have to make a decision, if you decide you want to do it, commit to it immediately, so that you have to follow through and process the information independently in your own time in private, because otherwise it can get very messy. So once you've got time to yourself, you can actually process the steps that you're going to go through. So that's the big lesson to be learned. Don't process whilst you're in conversation, because it's just a disaster. So anyway, I thought I'd just let you know how it went anyway, because obviously it's an experiment for me. I was lucky enough that I got the train to go to his house with him, so I had like a chaperone, and that helped me deal partly with getting the train. When I actually got there, I met his mum, and that was absolutely fine. But we had to sit down because it was my birthday and have dinner together at a dining table in a quiet room with somebody that I didn't know. And inevitably, my usual coping mechanisms kicked in, and I kind of went into silent mode. And I found it very difficult to be verbal, and I was beating myself up for it whilst I was experiencing it. Fortunately, I did manage to survive it. I mean, it was a very nice time. It was nothing to do with that. It was the fact that I went inside my own head and started over analysing myself and worrying about doing something stupid. Then the way home, that was slightly more complicated, because I had to get a train back to my house on my own, which doesn't seem all that problematic. But it flared up my social anxiety because I started overthinking, and I've had bad experiences on trains before because I'm not very aware of what's going on around me, and getting off at the wrong stops and, you know, going to the wrong platforms. So I went to get the train, and I got the platforms mixed up, and I thought they were 1, 2 and 3, and they were 3, 2 and 1, so I stood at the wrong platform. At the point I realised I'd already missed the train, so I went over to the other platform, and as I got to the other platform to get the right train, all of the trains got cancelled due to a disruption, and I was stood there for 45 minutes freezing, and it was anxiety inducing, being stuck somewhere, excuse me, I've got something in my eye, out of my comfort zone, away from home. But, you know, at the end of the day, I survived it, and I'm lucky for the fact that I'm with somebody who can see my anxiety and actively pushes it to try and push me through it, which I'm extremely grateful for. You know, if you can find somebody that would do that, as painful as the experience is, it's a building block, and it will help you get better. So my leaving advice is, if you are put on the spot with an unexpected event or a commitment, decide whether or not you want to do it, and if you want to do it, even if you're scared, commit to it immediately so that you cannot back out. And secondly, process in your own time. Do not process whilst with company, because people that don't understand your anxiety can misinterpret it as acting like a weirdo. You know what that's like. So yeah, that's my advice for today. You know, do things in your own time and do it privately. And if any of you have had experiences similar to that, I'd like to hear them. It's easy to laugh when you look back, but at the time it's very distressing. So, you know, we can't avoid all triggers. Some things happen that we can't control, but we need to create a coping mechanism for them. And I think the way to do that is to make the decision and then process in your own time and come up with a strategy. Okay, so I'll make another video soon, but until then, goodbye.